What's up guys, I'm BTC. Yesterday during a live stream, the Overwatch developers answered a whole bunch of questions about Hammond, other character balances, buffs, nerfs, the rework of Torbjorn, and possible guild system. The developers ended up talking for quite a while, but a lot of it was just filler and fluff, so I'm going to cut all that stuff out. We're going to recap just the important items. The first thing is going to be the brand new character Hammond, also known as Wrecking Ball. By the way, Blizzard, nobody's going to call it Wrecking Ball. Everybody's going to call it Hammond. You might as well just change the in-game name to Hammond. I mean, it's still on the PTR. You got some time. But apparently, Hammond was one of the original character concepts, or at least the mech itself was part of one of the original character concepts years back when they were first pitching the game of Overwatch. However, instead of a hamster, it was going to be a Junker Omnic with magnet powers. Obviously, they changed that, and according to the lore of that area, the Junkers hate Omnics anyways, so it probably wouldn't have worked. But they did say that they're probably going to bring back the magnet powers for a new character at some point in the future. Also, they talked a little bit about giving him the adaptive shield instead of barriers, because they said there's already a bunch of barriers that are out there, Reinhardt, Orisa, Winston, that sort of stuff, so they didn't want to have more stuff out in the field, so they gave him the adaptive shield, which is more similar to what Zarya has. But that means that he is also now going to be classified as a bruiser instead of actually a real tank like Orisa or Reinhardt or whatever. So yeah, he's got a lot of protection for himself, but he doesn't have any stuff that can actually defend his team. Another interesting thing they talked about was how divisive the character design is among the developers of Overwatch. Half the team think it's terrible and it's going to ruin the game, and the other half think that it's amazing and it's one of the best things ever. And I'm just curious how this is going to affect future characters, because Jetpack Cat was one of the original concept designs as well. And, I mean, if they push the envelope this far, where they have a hamster in a mech, I really don't see it out of the realm of possibility to have a Jetpack Cat. It kind of reminds me of what happened with the Marvel movies. They started with Iron Man and Captain America, and then slowly over time they started introducing more and more stuff that was kind of out there, until they had full-on magic stuff in Doctor Strange. So if this stuff works with Hammond, and they can get people to enjoy the character and they see that it works, then yeah, they're probably going to start introducing stuff that's more out there and more pushing the envelope. And hopefully Jetpack Cat. They also talked quite a bit about a bunch of the character changes that are coming up. The first two were very brief, Genji and Lucio. They're happy with both of those characters where they are, and they really don't want to make any changes to them. For Sombra, who just got a bunch of changes on the PTR, they're kind of monitoring it because it might not actually work kind of the way they wanted to. So there's a possibility that they could revert it, or that they could try something else with the character in order to get it to work the way that they want it to work. Also, with Reinhardt, they are kind of open to the possibility of slight changes to the character, something possibly to do with CC resist, because the character does get kind of thrown around all over the place. Particularly with the new character of Hammond, he's going to have even more problems. He's just going to constantly get knocked around. But for the most part with Reinhardt, what they're trying to do is just fix all of the bugs that he has right now, because there are quite a few, and once you get rid of all those bugs, then the character might actually be in a pretty good place. But even with all that change, they still realize that there might be some improvements that he needs. But again, they're kind of like pushing that away. They want to see how everything works out with Hammond once he gets put to the live servers first. They also talked about Ana and how she's kind of in an odd place. They don't think that she's a bad character, it's just that she's always being outdone by the other supports. So they don't want to make any massive changes, they don't want to do a rework or anything like that. And they don't think that giving her mobility is the right decision. They want to keep her strengths and weaknesses kind of where they are, but they need to make her strengths more favorable and on par with the rest of the supports. They also talked about Torbjorn because he's getting a pretty significant rework coming up, but they're having a lot of problems figuring out exactly what they want to do with the character. I've always said that builders in this type of a game are going to be inherently problematic, because anything that is a static thing like a turret is just really difficult to balance. If it's too strong, then the lower brackets will have a lot of problems with it. If it's too weak, then it's just completely useless in the upper brackets. So it's just really difficult to balance that sort of thing. Another big challenge they talked about was making Torbjorn consistently viable on offense and still being able to keep the turret. And the thing is, I think they did a really good job with Symmetra, because now that character is going to be able to be used on both offense and defense quite a bit. So that whole thing where you can't really use Symmetra on attack, that's pretty much gone with the rework. In fact, I think that Symmetra on attack might actually be better than Symmetra on defense, at least with this new version here. So it's possible, they just need to make things more kind of mobile, and I think making the turret kind of that extra disposable damage, don't have Torbjorn need to babysit it, don't have him need to upgrade it or to repair it or none of that stuff. Just make it so that it does a decent amount of damage, it has a decent amount of health so it doesn't get obliterated instantly, but don't put the emphasis on the turret anymore, put the emphasis on Torbjorn himself, the character, and, you know, balance it that way. And I think they'll be a lot better off doing that. They also briefly talked about more competitive rewards, and they said that they don't really like that idea because they don't want people playing on the competitive ladder just to get those rewards and get the weapon skins and that sort of stuff. They want people in the competitive ladder because those players want a more competitive setting. They want to play there, they want to rank up, that's their main goal. In fact, if it were me, I would just take the golden weapons and remove them from the competitive section altogether and just have a different way of getting them and just be done with it. That way, they could also start adding more weapon skins and more interesting things that they kind of can't do right now. They also talked about adding guilds to the game, which is something that they really want to do, but it might take a little while for that to happen. They are supposed to be adding a big third mystery social thing towards the end of this year. They said we were getting two things at the beginning of summer, which was the endorsements and the looking for group, and there's a third thing that's coming later on this year, but we don't know what it is. Now, it could be guilds, maybe they're just kind of, you know, being sneaky on us right now, but if they're not, then they still want to add guilds at some point in the future. Another thing they talked about was adding full replays of the entire match. Right now, we obviously only have the limited highlight function, but in the Overwatch League, they have a much better system for the replays, but keep in mind, it's literally one match at a time, so they don't have to worry about thousands of matches all at the same time being recorded and trying to get everything right. You know, they just have that one match that's going on, and they can call up whatever replay they want. They said the main problem was getting things to match up the way that it's supposed to, because sometimes when you use an ultimate or an ability or something, the replay might not show it how it actually happened, and they don't want people to get really frustrated, like, oh, look, that didn't actually hit me kind of deal. Like, why, you know, look at this replay, this is not what's supposed to happen, and blah, blah, blah. So they want to make sure that they get it right before they actually fully release any sort of replay system, but they definitely do want to do that. And they also talked about the possibility of a map editor, which would allow players to just create their own maps, and then it would probably be in the custom games, you could upload it and stuff. Other Blizzard games have had massive successes with the map editor. The entire MOBA genre was created from the original maps that were created using the Warcraft 3 map editor. So there's a massive amount of potential there, but they did say that the map editor is going to be quite a ways away, you know, at least a year kind of situation. So while it's something that they want, it's gonna take a while. They also spent a good amount of time talking about the looking for group system and the endorsements, and that it's very much working how they intended, and they're seeing a lot of positive responses to it. However, there are going to be some small improvements that they plan on making, and Jeff Kaplan did mention this before, that they're probably going to be on one of the upcoming PTR patches. So what do you guys think about all of those potential changes? There's a ton of stuff. Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff are down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.